Hello everyone and welcome to a truly exceptional game from round 7 of the European Club Cup 2000. So that was almost 25 years ago, and the stars of this show are Peter Svidler versus Michael Adams. Peter Svidler was around maybe world number 12 at the time, and Michael Adams was, I think, world number 5. And there was only one 2800 player in the world. Kasparov was some 2845, even higher rated than Magnus is nowadays. So yeah, it was a different place, and they played different chess. Variations were different, and well, there were quite beautiful positions on the board from time to time. So let's check it out, and you will see why my brother-in-law sent me this game, also to make me feel a little bit better, but he knew that once I saw this game, I would definitely share it with you guys. So let's check it out. Peter Svidler with white opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to e5 by Adams, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5. Svidler goes for the Ruy Lopez. We have pawn to a6, Morphy's defense, bishop to a4, knight to f6, and now castle's king side. We have bishop to c5, the so-called Neo-Archangelsk setup. We have c3 and pawn to b5. Bishop back to c2, pawn to d6, and pawn to a4. So it has been played before, and more interestingly, it has been played between Svidler and Adams, only with colors reversed a year before this game was played. So in 1999, we have bishop to g4 and now pawn to d3. In the game that I've mentioned, where Adams had the white pieces and Peter had the black pieces, pawn to h3 was played, and that game ended in a draw. But here, deviation from that game, pawn to d3, we have castle's king side and pawn to h3 now. We have bishop to h5, and now you could still transpose into that game with a captures on b5, but we have knight b to d2, and now as probably a captures on b5 was the next move. Adams goes pawn to b4, prevents a captures on b5, and it is now, as of move 11, that this position has never been reached again. So let's check it out. We have pawn to a5, stopping Adams from advancing the pawn to a5, and it's a good idea. The queen does not have access to a5, the c-pawn hasn't been pushed yet, and you have the a4 square for your bishop if needed, so quite a good expansion on the queen side. We have rook to b8, preparing to capture and claim the b file for himself. Queen to e2, and now b captures on c3. We have b captures and now pawn to d5. And while you could play this many different ways, you could, for example, challenge the knight, you could challenge the bishop with g4. We have the immediate pawn to d4. This not only attacks the bishop, but also attacks the a6 pawn, which has been weakened by Adams's rook to b8 move. So, okay, e captures on d4. We have queen captures on a6, and now d captures on c3, offering the c6 knight for the d2 knight. Peter captures, and now Michael captures as well. C captures on d2, and now what do you play? Do you react to the pawn? Do you capture the bishop? Well, many moves are possible. You could capture on c5, and then let's say d captures on c1, brings the queen into the game. Rook captures on c1, you give up the knight on f3. G captures, and now let's say knight h5 allows the queen into the game. Looks like something you do not want to allow black to do. So after c captures on d2, Svidler plays knight captures on d2, prevents bishop captures on f3, and now as the bishop is hanging, just bishop to d4, puts pressure on the rook on a1, so rook to a4 attacks the bishop, and d captures on e4, the queen now defends the bishop on d4. We have knight captures on e4, knight captures on e4, and now not queen captures to threaten checkmate, because then just bishop to g6 and you don't really have anything here, but rather bishop captures on e4. And the question is how to continue this position, and what's the idea? Well, the idea is that, okay, white has a pass pawn that is ready to be pushed, for example a6, a7, and if you go for something like let's say bishop to g6, which seems like a pretty good idea, just bishop to d5, and the position is already winning for white. Point being that the pawn will march forward, and the a8 square is sufficiently covered. So, if something like, let's say, bishop to e7, you'll play bishop to e3, challenge the bishop, clear the path for the pawn, and let's say f captures, you'll play f captures on e3. Now also put more pressure on that f7 pawn, but really the a pawn will do all the work here. If queen to d6, you offer a queen trade, you can even trade queens. Doesn't really matter, because the bishop here is just too strong, and there's no way for Michael's light square bishop to help in any way out. You're just going to win the exchange and then the game. So after bishop to e2, we have bishop, so after bishop captures on e4, we don't have anything of the sort, but rather bishop to e2. This is the only move that keeps Adams in the game, but Peter plays a brilliant maneuver, and that is bishop captures on h7. And what's the idea? Well, the idea is that if the bishop is captured, you will play queen to e4 with check, and after king to g8, first you capture on d4 and attack the black queen. And once the queen moves, now you move the rook, attack the bishop, and let's say the queens get traded off, captures, you will play something, bishop to b5, now bishop to f4, and of course your position will be very close to winning. Most likely it is just straight out winning. You have a passed pawn. Bishops are of opposite color, but the c7 pawn is extremely weak, and you should be able to win this. So of course Adams does not allow this. He plays king to h8, and now bishop back to c2, offering the rook on f1, but if the rook on f1 is captured, then there's the tricky queen e4, threatening mate, and after pawn to f5, you will play queen captures on d4, and after queen captures, rook captures on d4, bishop to e2, and okay, the game can be played, but you know, it's still very tricky. So bishop captures on f1, it could in fact be the strongest move. And also, if you're wondering what about bishop to b5, isn't this just very good? Well, no, now queen to e4, and you have to stop mate, and then you're just going to lose a piece. For example, f5, queen captures on d4, and you either give up 2 pieces for the rook, or queen captures, rook captures, and now after bishop captures on f1, king captures, you will still have 2 bishops for the rook, plus a pass pawn already on a5, and this will be completely winning. So after bishop to c2, rook to e8 was played, bishop captures on f1, most likely best, but rook to e8 still playable, and now rook to e1. And how do you continue here? It seems like bishop to b5 might now be an option, but not really. If bishop to b5 now, then rook captures on e8 check, queen captures, rook captures, and just rook captures on d4, and you're up a full bishop. You cannot play this. So after rook to e1, rook to e6, attacking the queen here, and now look at this spectacular move. Queen captures on e6, the move from the thumbnail, and there were many other moves I could have chosen for the thumbnail because this game just keeps on giving. Like I said, it's a game of infinite tactics, but rook captures on d4 is also a move you could consider, and I'm just gonna briefly show it because it's the first move you think of. Only if it doesn't work, I guess, then you think about queen captures rook on e6. And the point is that after queen captures on d4, queen captures on c7, attacking the rook. Let's say rook b to e8. Queen captures on f7. It looks like white has more than enough compensation for the sacrificed exchange, plus there's the passed a pawn. The problem is this queen to c3 move, and now you don't really have a good move other than rook captures on f2, and after rook captures on e2, queen to h5 check, and after king to g8, now bishop to h7 with check, king to f8, queen to f5 with check, king to e7, and bishop to g5 with check. Your only move other than giving up the queen is king to d6, and it looks like you shouldn't be able to survive this. And I mean, for a player of Svidler's strength, calculating this would be a piece of cake, but there's no continuation here. For example, bishop to f4 check, the king will be very safe. King to c6. It looks crazy that the black king can survive here, open board, queen and the bishop pair, but it can. It's still white pushing for the win because you can just put a king on h2 and hide it with bishop to g3, but objectively this will be a draw. So that's why Svidler sacrifices his queen. He plays queen captures on e6. This keeps the game going and has a potential of creating very complicated positions. Plus, I don't have the exact clock times for this game, so it could very well be that Adams was also very low on time. We have f captures on e6, and now rook captures on e2. And okay, you definitely have compensation for the queen in the bishop and the rook. Plus, also there's the passed a pawn. We have pawn to e5. The real way to keep equality here is queen to d6. This defends the pawn and also prevents the pawn from reaching the a6 square. I guess probably Adams thought that it doesn't matter if the pawn reaches a6 because a7 is sufficiently covered, but that is not the case here. We have pawn to a6. Sorry, first pawn to e5, defending the bishop here, and also preventing rook captures on e6. Now pawn to a6, but now queen to d6 doesn't really work because you play pawn to a7, and okay, it looks like you have it sufficiently covered, but after rook to 8, there's bishop to e3, and there's no way to ever capture this pawn. So after a6, queen to d7, and now pawn to a7, attacking the rook, rook to 8, and now look at this, rook captures on e5. This is crazy. This game just keeps on giving, and if you capture on e5, then look at this, rook to h4 with check, king to g8, bishop to b3 with check, king to f8, and bishop to e3 check. It's as if Svidler is creating his very own immortal game here. Like bishop to d6 only move, rook to h8 with check, king to e7, you will capture the rook on a8, and now it doesn't matter. Bishop captures on a3, even rook to f8. Now, with queen coming into the game next, and if a king captures, which is the best move, you're just gonna bring a queen into the game with check, king e7, queen captures, and you will be up a full bishop, of course, in a completely winning position. So after rook captures on e5, Michael cannot capture on e5. He plays pawn to g6, but now rook to e4 with threats of rook h4 and also just capturing that bishop on d4. So pawn to c5 and rook to a6. Finally, Michael does eliminate the passed pawn. Rook captures on a7, but it does him little good. Rook captures on g6, cutting off the king from the g file, now threatening rook to h4 check. So bishop to g7, but now look at this beautiful move, bishop to b2. A piece sacrifice, and the idea behind it being that you just want to clear the g file for your rook. And now if bishop captures on b2, rook to h4 check, you have to give up the queen, and now just rook captures, and it seems like, okay, we're just down 2 pawns. Not really. Rook to b6 opens up an attack on the rook and on the bishop, and you have to give up the exchange here if you don't want to be down a full piece. Bishop d4, you're gonna give up the rook, and now you're down the exchange plus 2 pawns, of course, completely winning for Svidler. So after bishop to b2, queen to b5 was played, trying to hang on, but now bishop to c3, and he was in this position on move 34 that Michael Adams resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So brilliant victory by Peter Svidler against then world number 5 Michael Adams. I think he was world number 5. I could check real quickly, just give me a second. Yeah, world number 5. So it was Kasparov at 28.49, then Kramnik with 27.70, Anand with 27.62, Morzeevich Alexander with 27.56, and Adams with 27.55, followed by Alexei Shirov, Petr Leko, Vasily Ivanchuk, Veselin Topalov, and Mikhal Krasenkov. Yeah, that was. I remember I was covering Krasenkov game once, and at that time he was rated world number 10. So yeah, also probably from year 2000. But he's still an active player, and we've covered some of his games, I think from last year and from this year. So he is really a wild player, a modern Tal, if you will. But yeah, this one goes to Svidler. Brilliant stuff here. And the problem is, if you capture on c3, then you already seen what happens. And if you try to play anything, let's say king to g8, then just do rook e to g4, and there's no defense here. Whatever you play, let's say queen to e2, just bishop to b3 with check. Let's say king h7, bishop captures on g7, and there's no defense. Rook to h6 will be checkmate. So in order to survive this, you have to start giving up material, and you're already down material, so that will not help you. So yeah, brilliant stuff by Svidler. I mean, it was a brilliant game by both of them. It takes 2 to create a masterpiece, but yeah, Svidler takes this one, and thank you a lot, Goran, for suggesting it. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll try to cover as many more gems like this as possible. So while modern chess is very interesting, it's super fun watching modern grandmasters battle it out over the course of the tournament that we just covered. But these old games, there's something special to them, and it's as if they're just immortalized by time. And the speed games played nowadays between modern grandmasters are forgotten as soon as they are played. So it definitely packs a different value. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Peter I. Billick, an anonymous person, Alma Tsoita, Joe Lennox, and Austin Wheeler for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.